On the morning of September 12, 2007, 20-year-old Ashley Wallace was in her dorm room at Bryant and Stratton College in Buffalo, New York, getting ready for her very first day of classes. She heard a knock. So there were two police officers standing in the hallway. Ashley had experienced some pretty severe trauma. Her father had passed away when she was 13, a sudden heart attack, and then her mother had remarried, and her stepfather had sort of struggled with depression on and off. And not long after her biological father had suddenly died, her stepfather took his own life. But she just had this awful feeling when she saw these police officers. They told her that we exhumed your father. We think he was murdered. When these officers had finally left Ashley's room, Ashley ended up calling her mother. Her mother also had a sort of similar experience with police that day. Ashley's mother, whose name was Stacy, just told her daughter to come home, forget about classes, and she drove the hour back to her mom's place. Ashley, her sister Bree, and their mom just retreated to their mother's kitchen, and there they cried together and talked through this horrible situation. The mom was like, "I'm getting a drink. Do any of you guys want a drink?" Ashley said sure. So Stacy mixed some drinks for her and Ashley, as well as a non-alcoholic drink for Bree. The next morning, when Ashley woke up, the level of hungover she was feeling felt disproportionate. Like she was really hungover despite a relatively small amount of alcohol. Ashley wills herself out of bed. She feels horrible, but she's driving back to the campus. She goes to her classes. Finally, at the end of the day, during her last class, Ashley began to sort of break out of this fog. She hopped right back in her car and drove right back to her mother's house. And just like the night before, she, her sister, and her mom just sat in the kitchen and also having a few drinks. The next morning, when Ashley woke up, she was so hungover. First thing that hit her is, I don't know where I am. She was in a hospital room. There were just these two police officers sitting against the wall in her room. And they explained to her that she was very lucky that her mother had actually found her in her bed unresponsive. One of them pulled a piece of paper out of their pocket. It would turn out the way Ashley's stepfather had taken his own life was by drinking antifreeze. At least that was the initial theory. As suspicions rose around the stepfather, investigators thought the biological father died just a few years before. They exhumed the biological father, and during the autopsy, they discovered antifreeze in his remains. Fast forward to the hospital. These officers have walked over to her, they've handed her a note, and this note was effectively a confession. The writer of this note said they killed Ashley's biological father, and then they also killed Ashley's stepfather. Because of the blood on their hands, they're going to take their own lives. It was signed by Ashley. Except Ashley did not kill her father or stepfather. Her mother used antifreeze to poison and kill both men, and then when police began poking around, she tried to poison her own daughter. Ashley's mother called the ambulance a little bit too early the following day. Stacy was convicted of 2 murders, as well as the attempted murder of her daughter, and she was sentenced to 51 years in prison.